I woke up to the sound of my own screaming, and that's when I realized the knife wasn't in my nightmare anymore. It was pressed against my bedroom window, carving a perfect circle through the glass while someone on the other side breathed fog onto the pane. That was 3 months ago, and that's when my father hired Victoria. Hey everyone, before we dive deeper into this crazy story, I want to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below, and if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow, and trust me, you won't want to miss how this story unfolds. Victoria Chen arrived at our estate on a Tuesday morning in early March, carrying nothing but a black duffel bag and an expression that could freeze vodka. My father introduced us in his study, and I remember thinking she looked nothing like the burly men in suits I'd imagined when he said he was hiring personal security. She was 5'9", lean and graceful, with sharp cheekbones and dark hair pulled back so tightly it must have hurt. Her eyes were the color of expensive whiskey, and when she looked at me, I felt like she was calculating exactly how many ways I could die in the next 60 seconds. Miss Castellanos, I'll be with you 24/7 until we identify and neutralize the threat, she said, her voice flat and professional. That means I sleep in the room adjacent to yours, I accompany you everywhere, and you follow my instructions without question. Understood? I wanted to hate her immediately. I was 26 years old, a successful architectural designer with my own firm, and the last thing I needed was a babysitter. But my father's face was gray with worry, and the police had found nothing after weeks of investigation. Someone had been leaving gifts on our doorstep. Dead roses. Photographs of me taken from impossible angles. Notes written in what forensics confirmed was human blood. Fine, I said, crossing my arms. But I have a life, Victoria. I have meetings, site visits, dinner with friends. Then I'll have meetings, site visits, and dinner with friends, she replied without missing a beat. Get used to seeing me, Miss Castellanos. I'm about to become your shadow. She wasn't kidding. For the first week, Victoria's presence was suffocating. She stood outside my bedroom door at night. She sat in the corner during my video conferences. She followed me into coffee shops and waited by the bathroom door while I used the facilities. My friends found it amusing at first, making jokes about my hot bodyguard, but I found it invasive and humiliating. What I didn't expect was how quickly I'd stop noticing her presence and start noticing her. It started small. The way she held doors open with a slight nod. The graceful efficiency with which she moved through spaces, always positioning herself between me and potential threats. The quiet competence in everything she did. Victoria never fumbled, never hesitated, never showed fear. In a world where I'd been terrified for weeks, her certainty was intoxicating. Then came the incident at the construction site. I was doing a final walkthrough on a residential project in the Hollywood Hills when one of the contractors started following me around, standing too close, making comments about my body that he disguised as compliments. I'd dealt with this kind of thing before and usually handled it myself, but before I could say anything, Victoria materialized at my elbow. Step back, she said to the contractor, her voice quiet, but carrying an edge like a blade. The man laughed. Who's this, your girlfriend? I'm the person who's going to break your wrist if you don't back away from Miss Castellanos right now, Victoria replied, and something in her tone made it clear this wasn't a threat. It was a promise. The contractor's smile died. He backed away, muttering under his breath, and I stood there feeling something unfamiliar curl in my chest. No one had ever defended me like that. My father protected me with money and lawyers, my friends protected me with supportive texts. But Victoria protected me with her body, her presence, her willingness to stand between me and anything that might hurt me. Thank you, I said once we were alone. She glanced at me, and for the first time, I saw something other than professional detachment in her eyes. It's my job, Miss Castellanos. Isabella, I corrected. If you're going to follow me into bathrooms, you can call me Isabella. The corner of her mouth twitched. It wasn't quite a smile, but it was close. Isabella, then. After that, things shifted between us. The silence that had been uncomfortable became comfortable. We developed routines, morning coffee together on the terrace where she'd scan the perimeter while I reviewed blueprints, evening walks through the garden, where she'd keep 3 paces behind until I'd slow down and make her walk beside me. Late nights when I couldn't sleep, and I'd find her in the kitchen making tea with military precision, and she'd pour me a cup without asking if I wanted one. We started talking, real talking. I learned she'd been in the Army, special operations, before going private. She learned I'd started my firm at 23 against my father's wishes, determined to make it on my own merit rather than his name. She told me about growing up in San Francisco with parents who expected perfection. I told her about the pressure of being Eduardo Castellanos' only daughter, how every achievement was met with, "But what's next?" "You're more than your last name," Victoria said one night while we sat in the library. Rain hammered against the windows, and a fire crackled in the hearth. She was cleaning her service weapon, and I was sketching elevation drawings, and it felt absurdly domestic. "So are you," I replied, "more than just the person keeping me alive." She looked up from the gun, and something passed between us. Something electric and dangerous and entirely inappropriate given our situation. I watched her hands as she reassembled the weapon with practiced ease, and I wondered what those hands would feel like on my skin. The thought should have shocked me, but it didn't. It felt inevitable, like I'd been moving toward this moment since she first walked into my father's study. "Isabella," she said quietly, and my name in her mouth sounded like a warning and an invitation all at once. "Victoria," I whispered back. She set the gun aside and stood up, and I thought she was going to leave, to retreat behind professional boundaries. Instead, she crossed to where I sat and stopped just close enough that I could feel the heat of her body. "This can't happen." "I know. I'm here to protect you, not to—" "I know," I repeated. "But it's happening anyway, isn't it?" She closed her eyes, and I watched her jaw tighten. When she opened them again, the careful control I'd admired for weeks was cracking. "If I get distracted, if I'm not completely focused on keeping you safe, and something happens to you, I'll never forgive myself." I stood up, bringing us face to face. "And if we both survive this and never explore what this is between us, will you forgive yourself for that?" "That's different." "Is it?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, her fingers lingering against my cheek. The touch was feather-light, reverent, and it sent electricity racing down my spine. "You're making this very difficult." "Good," I said, and then I kissed her. It was soft at first, tentative, giving her every opportunity to pull away. But she didn't. Her hand slid into my hair, and she deepened the kiss with a hunger that suggested she'd been thinking about this as much as I had. She tasted like the peppermint tea she always drank before bed, and when she pressed me back against the desk, I made a sound that was half gasp, half laugh. We broke apart, both breathing hard, and reality crashed back in. Victoria stepped away, running a hand through her hair and destroying the perfect smoothness. "We can't do this. Not while you're in danger. Not while I'm being paid to protect you." "Then we wait," I said, even though every nerve in my body was screaming in protest. "We wait until this is over, and then we see if this is real or just adrenaline and proximity," she finished. "It's real," I said firmly. "At least for me, it's real." She looked at me for a long moment, and when she spoke, her voice was rough. "For me too. Which is exactly why I need to stay focused. If something happened to you because I was distracted by how much I want—" She cut herself off, shaking her head. "Go to bed, Isabella. I'll be right outside your door." I wanted to argue, to pull her back and finish what we'd started, but I understood. Her dedication to keeping me safe was part of what drew me to her in the first place. So I nodded and went upstairs, knowing she'd be there all night, standing guard over my dreams. The next few weeks were exquisite torture. We were hyper-aware of each other in ways we hadn't been before. Every accidental touch felt deliberate. Every shared glance carried weight. My friends noticed the change in me, the way I lit up when Victoria entered a room, but they attributed it to feeling safer. Only my best friend Mariana suspected the truth. "You're falling for your bodyguard," she said over lunch while Victoria sat at a nearby table, her eyes constantly scanning the restaurant. "That's ridiculous," I protested, but my cheeks burned. Mariana laughed. "Isabella, I've known you since we were 16. You get this look when you're into someone like you're solving a particularly interesting architectural problem. and you've been giving Victoria that look for weeks. Even if I was, which I'm not admitting, nothing can happen until this stalker situation is resolved. And the police still have no leads? I shook my head. The gifts had stopped after Victoria arrived, but that almost made it worse. It felt like whoever was targeting me was watching, waiting, biding their time. The police theorized that the increased security had scared them off, but Victoria wasn't convinced. She'd told me that stalkers rarely just gave up, especially ones who'd been as brazen as mine. It doesn't feel over, I said quietly. It feels like the eye of the storm. Victoria must have sensed my distress because she appeared at our table, her hand resting lightly on the back of my chair. Everything okay? The simple gesture, protective and possessive, made Mariana's eyebrows shoot up. I ignored her knowing smirk. Fine, just talking about the case. That night, I had the nightmare again. Not the one with the knife at the window, but a new one where I was walking through an empty version of my house, calling for Victoria, and finding her in every room with her eyes open but empty, while someone laughed from the shadows. I woke up gasping, and before I could reach for the lamp, my bedroom door flew open. Victoria was there in seconds, gun drawn, scanning for threats. She was wearing black tactical pants and a tank top, and her hair was loose around her shoulders for the first time since I'd met her. What happened? Nightmare, I managed, my heart still racing. Sorry, I didn't mean to scare you. She holstered the gun and moved to the side of my bed, sitting on the edge. In the dim light from the hallway, her features were softer, more vulnerable. Don't apologize, that's what I'm here for. Her hand found mine on the blanket and she squeezed gently. Want to talk about it? I told her about the dream, and when I got to the part about finding her dead, my voice broke. She pulled me into her arms without hesitation, and I buried my face in her shoulder, breathing in the clean scent of her soap and something uniquely her. Hey, she murmured into my hair. I'm not going anywhere, I promise. You can't promise that. You don't know what's going to happen. You're right. I can't promise I'll live forever. But I can promise that I'll do everything in my power to make sure you're safe, even if it costs me everything. That's not just my job anymore, Isabella. That's what I want. I pulled back enough to see her face. Victoria. I know we said we'd wait, she interrupted. I know this complicates everything. But sitting out there night after night, knowing you're in here alone and scared, it's killing me. So if you need me, I'm here. Not as your bodyguard right now, just as me. She stayed with me that night, lying on top of the covers while I slept under them, her presence chasing away the nightmares. It became our new routine. Every night, after checking the perimeter and setting the alarms, Victoria would slip into my room and lie beside me, fully clothed and armed, ready to spring into action at the slightest threat. We didn't kiss again, didn't cross that line, but the intimacy of sleeping beside her was almost more profound. Then came the benefit gala. My father's company was hosting a charity event at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and despite the security concerns, he insisted I attend. It was important for the business, and besides, what safer place could there be than an event with metal detectors, security guards, and hundreds of witnesses? Victoria disagreed, but my father overruled her, which led to the first real fight I'd witnessed between them. With all due respect, Mr. Castellanos, putting Isabella in a public venue with this many people makes her a target, Victoria argued in my father's study the week before the event. There will be over a dozen security personnel, my father countered, and you'll be with her every moment. I'm one person. I can't cover every angle in a crowd that size. Then we'll assign you backup. But Isabella needs to be there. We can't let this person control our lives. Victoria's jaw clenched, but she nodded. After my father dismissed us, she followed me to my room, tension radiating off her in waves. I don't like this. I know, but he's right. We can't hide forever. I touched her arm. I trust you to keep me safe. Your trust might be misplaced, she said quietly. Isabella, I have a bad feeling about this event. Something feels wrong. Your instincts? My instincts are screaming at me to get you somewhere remote and secure and keep you there until we identify this person. I stepped closer to her. Then let's make a deal. I go to this gala, I make an appearance for my father's sake, and then we leave. 1 hour, maximum. And afterwards, maybe we can finally stop pretending that this thing between us doesn't exist. She looked at me with such intensity that I felt it in my bones. You're using yourself as bait. I'm using myself as motivation for you to get through this event so we can move forward with our lives. That's manipulative. Is it working? Despite the tension, she almost smiled. Unfortunately, yes. The night of the gala, Victoria helped me get ready, which meant she stood guard while I did my hair and makeup, then inspected my dress with the same thoroughness she applied to everything else. I'd chosen a midnight blue gown with a high slit, elegant but allowing for movement, per her instructions. When I emerged from the bathroom, her eyes darkened in a way that had nothing to do with security protocols. "You look beautiful," she said, then cleared her throat. "I mean appropriate for the event." I laughed. Nice save. She was wearing a tailored black suit that made her look like she'd stepped out of a spy movie, her hair back in the severe bun I'd grown to love because I knew what it looked like loose. An earpiece connected her to the security team, and I could see the slight bulge under her jacket where she wore her shoulder holster. The gala was exactly as tedious as I'd expected. Wealthy people in expensive clothes making small talk while photographers circled like sharks. My father paraded me around to potential clients and business partners, and Victoria stayed within arm's reach the entire time, her eyes never stopping their constant surveillance of the room. I was talking to a developer about a potential project when Victoria's hand suddenly gripped my elbow. "We need to go, now." "What? We've only been here 40 minutes. "Isabella, we need to leave right now." Her voice was calm, but her grip was iron, and I could feel the tension vibrating through her. She was already moving, steering me toward the exit, her other hand on her weapon. Then the lights went out. Screaming erupted in the darkness, the sound of hundreds of panicked people trying to find the exits. Victoria pulled me against her, her body a shield, and I felt, rather than saw her draw her gun. "Stay behind me. Do not let go of my jacket." Emergency lights flickered on, casting everything in an eerie red glow. Security was trying to restore order, and I could hear them shouting instructions, but Victoria was moving in the opposite direction from the main exits, pulling me through a service door I hadn't noticed before. "Where are we going?" I whispered. "Somewhere I can control the variables." That wasn't a power failure, Isabella. Someone cut the electricity, which means someone planned this. We were in a service corridor now, stark and utilitarian compared to the opulent ballroom. Victoria's training was evident in how she moved, checking corners, keeping me behind her, progressing with lethal efficiency. We'd almost reached an exterior door when a figure stepped out from an alcove. "Hello, Victoria." I felt Victoria go rigid. The woman blocking our path was beautiful in a harsh way, with platinum blonde hair and cold blue eyes. She was wearing a catering uniform and holding a gun with disturbing casualness. "Diane," Victoria said, and her voice was completely flat. "I should have known." "Should you?" "I've gotten so much better at surveillance since you left. 3 months I've been watching her, watching you, waiting for the perfect moment." The woman's smile was vicious. "Did you really think you could just walk away from me? From us?" Horror crashed over me as I understood. "This is about you? She's been stalking me because of you?" "Stalking is such an ugly word," Diane said. "I prefer making a point. Victoria left me for a mission 2 years ago, said the work was more important than our relationship, so I wanted her to understand what it feels like to have something you care about threatened." Victoria's hand tightened on my jacket, pulling me further behind her. "Diane, Isabella has nothing to do with us. This is between you and me." "Oh, but that's where you're wrong. Because I've been watching you watch her, and I saw something I never saw when you looked at me. You love her." Diane's voice turned ugly. "You love this spoiled little rich girl more than you ever loved me." "I never loved you," Victoria said coldly. "I made the mistake of sleeping with you twice during a joint operation. You became obsessed, started showing up at my assignments, interfering with my work. I had to request a restraining order, Diane. That's not love. That's stalking." "Liar!" Diane's gun hand wavered, emotion cracking her composure. "We were perfect together. We understood each other. But then you threw it all away, and now you're playing house with her?" I could feel Victoria calculating, and when she spoke again, her voice was measured, controlled. You're right. I do love her, which is why I'm asking you, one operator to another, to let her go. You want to hurt me? Fine. I'm right here. But Isabella is innocent in all of this. How noble, Diane sneered. The great Victoria Chen, sacrificing herself for love. It's almost romantic. Almost enough to make me consider it. She took a step closer, and I saw her finger tighten on the trigger. But I don't think I will. I think I'm going to make you watch her die, and then I'm going to kill you too. And maybe then you'll understand what you put me through. Everything happened at once. Victoria shoved me hard to the left while throwing herself to the right, drawing her own weapon mid-motion. Gunshots cracked through the corridor, deafeningly loud in the confined space. I hit the ground hard, my ears ringing, unable to process what I was seeing. Victoria and Diane were on the ground, both bleeding, both still holding their weapons. More security guards were pouring into the corridor, shouting commands, and someone was pulling me away, but all I could see was Victoria, her hand pressed against her side, red seeping between her fingers. Victoria! I screamed, fighting against the hands holding me back. Let me go, I need to get to her. Ma'am, you need to let the paramedics work. That's the woman I love. Get your hands off me. They must have heard the hysteria in my voice because they let me go, and I stumbled to where Victoria lay. Diane was being handcuffed by police, screaming incoherently about betrayal and love, but I didn't care about her. All I cared about was Victoria, whose eyes found mine even as the paramedics cut away her jacket. Hey, she said weakly. Some first date, huh? Don't you dare joke right now, I choked out, taking her hand. Don't you dare die on me, Victoria Chen. Not planning on it. She winced as the paramedics applied pressure to her wound. Takes more than one bullet to take me out. Though I have to say, getting shot for you is definitely more romantic than anything in my previous relationships. Still joking. You're still joking. Isabella. Her grip on my hand tightened. I need you to listen to me. That thing I said in there. About loving you? I meant it. Just in case the shock and blood loss were making you think it was some tactical thing to distract her. Tears were streaming down my face. I love you too, you idiot. I have for weeks. So you need to be okay, do you understand? We have actual dates to go on. Normal dates where no one gets shot. She smiled, and even pale and bleeding, she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. Sounds perfect. Maybe dinner and a movie, something boring and safe. The most boring and safe date in history, I promised. But first, you need to let these people save your life. Always so bossy, she murmured, but her eyes were starting to flutter closed. Victoria? Victoria, stay with me. Just resting my eyes, she mumbled. Been a long night. Tell your father he was right, the gala was a terrible idea. The paramedics were loading her onto a stretcher, and I tried to follow, but one of them stopped me. Are you family? She's my girlfriend, I said firmly, daring them to challenge me. So, yes, I'm family. They exchanged a glance, then nodded, letting me climb into the ambulance with her. The next 12 hours were the longest of my life. Victoria's wound, while serious, had missed all vital organs. The bullet had gone clean through, which the doctor said was lucky. She'd lost a lot of blood, but she was stable, and they expected a full recovery. Diane had been hit in the shoulder by Victoria's return fire and was in custody, facing multiple charges including stalking, attempted murder, and about a dozen other things the police rattled off while I sat in the waiting room. My father arrived just after dawn, still in his tuxedo from the gala, his face gray with guilt and fear. Isabella, I'm so sorry. If I had listened to her, if I hadn't insisted you attend. It's not your fault, I said, even though part of me wanted to be angry with him. Diane would have found another opportunity. At least this way, it's over. How is she? Out of surgery, stable. They're moving her to a room soon. He sat beside me, and for a moment, we were just a father and daughter, scared and exhausted. You love her. It wasn't a question. Yes. She's good for you. I've never seen you as happy as you've been these last few weeks, even with everything that was happening. He squeezed my hand. When she wakes up, tell her she's still got the job if she wants it. I laughed wetly. I think the job might have changed parameters slightly. Slightly, he agreed, and then the nurse was calling my name, telling me Victoria was awake and asking for me. I found her in a private room, looking small in the hospital bed, which was wrong because Victoria Chen was never small. Her color was better, though, and when she saw me, she smiled. Hey, you. Hey, yourself. I took the chair beside her bed and carefully took her hand, mindful of the IV. You scared me. Sorry. In my defense, taking a bullet for you seemed very romantic in the moment. It was, I admitted. Terrifying but romantic. Do not do it again. Deal. 1 bullet taking per relationship is my limit anyway. She shifted, wincing, and I moved to help her, but she waved me off. I'm fine. Just sore. The doctor said I'll be back to full capability in a few weeks. About that, I said carefully. My father said your job is still available if you want it. But Victoria, I need to know. When you're healed, when this is all truly over, do you still want to be my bodyguard, or do you want to be something else? She was quiet for a moment, studying my face. What do you want, Isabella? I want you. Not as an employee, not as someone my father pays to keep me safe, but as my partner, my girlfriend. The person I wake up next to because we both want to be there, not because there's a threat. I took a shaky breath. But I also know you love your work, and I would never ask you to give it up for me. So maybe you take other clients, or maybe you train other bodyguards, or maybe we figure something out that works for both of us. But I need the something between us to be real, not just proximity and adrenaline. It is real, she said firmly. Isabella, I've been doing this job for 8 years. I've protected diplomats, celebrities, corporate executives, and I've never once felt for them what I feel for you. What I feel for you started scaring me weeks ago, because I knew it would compromise my objectivity, and that scared me more than any threat. She laced her fingers through mine. So yes, when I'm healed, I'll take other clients. Your father can recommend me to people he trusts, and I'll build my business that way. But my home, my heart, my everything off the clock, that's yours if you want it. I kissed her then, careful of her injuries, gentle and sweet and full of promise. When we broke apart, she was smiling that rare, soft smile I'd come to treasure. I want it, I whispered. I want all of it. I want boring dates and normal days and a life where the most exciting thing that happens is deciding what to have for dinner. We can do that, she agreed. Right after I teach you self-defense and how to shoot, because even though Diane's in custody, I need to know you can protect yourself. Of course you do, I laughed. Very romantic. I'm a work in progress, she admitted. But I'm your work in progress, if you'll have me. Always, I promised. Victoria stayed in the hospital for 3 days, and I barely left her side. Mariana brought me clothes and takeout, and my father handled the police interviews and the aftermath of the gala. Diane, it turned out, had been living under an assumed name in Los Angeles for the past year, working various catering and service jobs, getting close enough to learn my routines and plan her campaign of terror. She'd been in and out of psychiatric facilities since her discharge from the military for erratic behavior, and her obsession with Victoria had been documented but never fully addressed. The system failed her, Victoria said when we got the full story. But that doesn't excuse what she did to you? To us, I corrected. She hurt both of us. We took it slow after Victoria was released from the hospital. Real dates, like we'd promised. Coffee shops and art galleries and walks on the beach where Victoria's hand found mine naturally, easily, without the weight of danger pressing down on us. She moved out of the room adjacent to mine and into mine properly, and my father pretended not to notice when she showed up at breakfast wearing my t-shirts. The nightmares faded, replaced by dreams where Victoria was alive and smiling, where we were building something beautiful and lasting. My firm took on new projects, and Victoria started her own consulting business, training executive protection specialists, and taking select clients who met her strict criteria. We became that couple who finished each other's sentences and had inside jokes that annoyed our friends in the best way. 6 months after the gala, Victoria took me back to the Beverly Hills Hotel for dinner, and I realized she'd reserved the entire restaurant. Candles flickered on every table and soft music played, and when she led me to a table by the window, she got down on one knee. "Isabella Castellanos," she said, pulling out a velvet box. "You were supposed to be just another client. A job. A person I kept safe and then moved on from. Instead, you became my home, my heart, my reason for everything. You taught me that being strong doesn't mean being alone, and that letting someone in isn't a weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do." She opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single diamond. "Will you marry me?" I was crying, laughing, pulling her up so I could kiss her. "Yes, yes, of course, yes." She slipped the ring onto my finger, and it fit perfectly, like everything about us. "I love you," she murmured against my lips. "I love you too," I whispered back. "My bodyguard, my hero, my wife." "Not your bodyguard anymore," she corrected with a smile. "Just yours." "Just mine," I agreed. "Forever." And in that moment, with her arms around me and our future stretching out bright and beautiful ahead of us, I knew that sometimes the best protection isn't about keeping the world away. It's about finding the person who makes you brave enough to face it, who stands beside you not because they have to, but because they can't imagine being anywhere else. Victoria was never just my bodyguard. She was always meant to be so much more. It just took a threat from inside the house to help us both realize that the greatest danger we faced was never finding each other at all. So that's my story. The story of how the woman hired to protect me ended up saving me in ways that had nothing to do with physical safety. If you enjoyed this journey with Isabella and Victoria, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments what kind of stories you want to hear next. Thank you for watching, and remember that sometimes the person guarding your life ends up guarding your heart too.